Hi, I am Patsy Randolph. I am the leader of the Sunflower Shapers team. We are a team of Young Living independent distributors that are shaping lives through faith and longevity with Young Living essential oils. And today we're not going to talk about oils at all. Well, maybe thrown in there a little bit, but mostly what we're going to talk about today is kombucha. And what is kombucha? Why would you want to learn how to make it yourself? Why would you want to even drink it? So let me start with some of the basics. Kombucha is a fermented tea, and it is incredible for gut health. And our gut is very, very important. Most of the serotonin in the body is actually made in the gut, so when our gut is happy, we're happy. It also is, kombucha is great for, it's got a ton of vitamin B's, which also are going to help up our energy. I would encourage you to do some research on kombucha because there is a ton of benefits on there, and I don't want to make this super long and go through all of them. We're just going to kind of get into how to make it. So kombucha is basically sweet tea that has been inoculated with proper bacteria, and then it's left to sit to ferment to grow awesome probiotics for our health. So we are going to start kind of in the backwards way because I've already got some made and I need to show you what to do with that so that we can get access to the ingredients in here to make more. So this is my jar of already made kombucha. You can see things floating in there. Those would be scobies. So we're going to take the top off and we're going to grab, if you can, I don't know if you can see, there's a tiny, tiny little, that's the baby SCOBY that just grew because every time you make a batch of kombucha, it makes a new SCOBY. I'm going to strain some of this off because when you drink it, you're not going to want the little floaties in there. That's kind of nasty. So I'm just pouring this through a little strainer, and I'm pouring off about 2 cups. Because that is how much you need, and I over pour it, to inoculate your new batch. So we're going to split the new batch into 2 jars. So I'm just pouring this into the new jar, and I'm going to do the same thing again for the other jar. Instead of making this in 1 jar for 1 gallon, we're going to make this into 2 half-gallon jars. And to do that, since I'm putting this in as starter tea for the next batch, we really don't have to strain it. But now that we did, I'm kind of going to show you why we strain it. Can you see those little floaty things in there? That's why we strain it when we want to drink it, because that's kind of just slimy and yucky to actually drink. It's not going to hurt you, but texture-wise, it's kind of gross. So this is my SCOBY that has been growing for a while. You can see that it's kind of in a couple layers. My hands are clean, so I'm going to actually just take this and I'm going to pull it apart. You could use a scissors or a knife and cut it. It's not going to hurt the SCOBY. The SCOBY grows. But this is one I've left in there for a while, and so layer upon layer of it has grown together. I'm going to put 1 in each jar, and then I'm going to rinse my hands.
So Patsy, what's a SCOBY stand for?
SCOBY stands for symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. There's our 2 jars ready. Those are ready for the new batch of kombucha. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sweet tea. So I have a gallon of distilled water here. I took some of it out of the top and I made tea with it. Now for a gallon of tea, if you go by the directions on the tea box, it is 1 tea bag for every 8 ounces. So I have 8 tea bags in here, and I'm just pouring the tea off. And what I like to use is decaffeinated green organic tea with a mix. So there's 4 tea bags in these little packets, and then I do the other half with this one. This is my personal favorite. It does not have to be that way. If you want a ton of different flavors, you're going to use a plain tea, and you're going to Google second fermented kombucha to figure out how to flavor it. I personally like this because it's easier for me, it works, and it gives it a little bit of flavor. So now what needs to go in there is 1 cup of sugar for a gallon of water, or a gallon of tea. So I like to use organic pure cane sugar. It needs to basically be a type of white sugar. You don't want to use any stevia or anything like that. That will not, because the SCOBY actually feeds off of the sugar. The other thing you need to remember is part of your tea has to be black. There's things in there that the SCOBY feeds off of also. So some green tea is fine, but it doesn't work with all green tea. Your SCOBY will die, and then no fermentation. So I'm just going to put the lid on this, and I'm going to shake up the tea to mix the sugar in. And if you're trying to find information on kombucha, you might want to know how it's spelled. It is Kombucha. So we have our sugars all dissolved in there, so we basically just have a gallon of sweet tea. And that's the sugar. And from there, it gets really complicated. I'm joking. So I have my 2 jars with my SCOBYs in them. And we're filled up on one. Filled up on the second one. There we go. Now, when you are making your first ferment of kombucha, you want to cover it, put it in a dark place, but you don't want to cover it with, it needs to breathe. So you're going to, I like to use coffee filters and rubber bands, and then I wrap a towel around it to keep the light out because it needs to be in a dark place. Scummy on the top there. Rubber band keeps any bugs out that might be in your house. And those are ready to sit for 7 to 10 days. It kind of depends on how strong you want your kombucha. When I'm trying to figure out how long it's going to take to ferment, let me see if I have a... I do not have a straw. I'm checking one other place. Should have had one of those out. But if you've got the jar sitting there full of kombucha and you want to know if it's done, and it's done when you like the taste of it. You want it to sit for at least, it depends on how warm your house is too. 4 or 5 days if your house is really warm. If your house is pretty cool, 7, 10 days, and then you can basically just put your finger over the top of a straw, put the straw down there, then put your finger over it, and you can lift it up, and then some liquid will stay in there, and then you can just drop it in your mouth to find out if the flavor is to your liking. If it sits too long, it will taste like vinegar. It won't hurt you, but it's not really necessarily fun to drink. I know because I've been there, done that, let it sit too long. And when I do that, I will actually make some more sweet tea, and I will put about half sweet tea and half of the really strong kombucha in there, and I'll stick it in the refrigerator where it slows down the fermentation, but it makes it more palatable to be able to drink. So some of the things that I have found that kombucha really helps with, energy level, it's great for your energy level because of all the vitamin B's in there. It's also great for your digestion system. It just makes my digestive system very happy. Ladies, which I have a couple ladies here with me that have been learning. There's Colleen. Jean gonna say hi too?
Isn't Patsy great?
Thank you. Any
Hello.
questions about what I've done or in kombucha in general?
Now, how is this compared to the kombucha in the store? I've been seeing it in the stores now.
Well, number one, the biggest thing about different between homemade kombucha and the store is cost. It's anywhere from $3 to $5 a bottle for a small 10 to 12 ounce bottle in the stores. This is the cost of distilled water, tea, and some sugar, and a little bit of your time, which it doesn't even take that much time. So obviously the cost is different, but also because of bottling regulations and health standards, they actually have to pasteurize the stuff in the store. So they're heating it up to some degree, and it may not be killing all of the good bacteria, but it is definitely killing some of it. So I find my stuff is way more effective with helping my digestive system than any store-bought stuff does.
That's awesome.
Any other questions?
How much of it do you drink a day?
When you're starting out, I would highly recommend, especially if you've not done anything probiotic-wise, you don't take any probiotic pills, you don't eat yogurt, drink kefir, anything like that, I would honestly start with that straw method and just that's just going to be just enough to basically wet the inside of your mouth. And I would do that for 2 or 3 days. As long as you don't have too many strong detox reactions, then I would start upping that to like a tablespoon a day for a couple of days. I mean, there are people that drink 8, 12, 24 ounces of it in a day. I personally do not drink that much because I don't want that much tea in my system, which people find really odd. But there's a little known fact about tea. As a plant, one of its natural protective things that it does is it digs down into the soil and it finds fluoride in the soil and it soaks that up, and it makes animals not want to eat the plant. So therefore it's a protective thing for them. But that means that the tea has fluoride in it. So a little bit of it is not going to be something that's wrong, but I don't want to ingest a lot of fluoride. So that's my thing.
So, Patsy, I heard you say kefir. So we're
Yes.
going to do that next?
I think, yes, we are going to do a video on how to make kefir. And if you want to get prepared for that, kefir is K-E-F-I-R. You might want to Google that and see about all the wonderful things that kefir can do for you. Just as a little teaser, when you buy yogurt, one of the reasons that a lot of people buy yogurt is for the probiotics in it. The best yogurt on the market has about 6 strains of bacteria. And that's one of the things that you really want to know about it when you're talking about populating the gut with good bacteria, is how the different types of bacteria, because we need a ton of different types. We don't want an overgrowth of one particular type. So homemade kombucha has over 30 different strains of bacteria to it. So it's way, way more beneficial than yogurt is.
Great info. Thank you.
Jean, you want to hit our camera? Thank you. Have a great